Right now, people from across the world are waking up from an artificial life created by an elite group who wants power, allegiance, and control. This awakened few are also a part of an elite group, a group of people that will stand fast for truth, not scared of the consequences, but scared of the consequences of being silent. What are the consequences of being silent about the biggest heist in history? Stolen freedom. The freedom to worship any god you want, or no god at all. The freedom of speech. The freedom of press. And the freedom to assemble. Now there are movements that claim to be for freedom, and claim to be anti-New World Order, anti-big bankers, Freemasons, and even anti-Illuminati. These movements, while claiming to have the truth, are still a part of that which we are fighting against. They are being used to keep your attention on these, while the real threats to our freedom are being established in the background. An example of the propaganda of the New World Order is a movie called Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist was a film that teaches a little bit of truth and at the same time secretly pushing another agenda. The Zeitgeist movie consists of 3 parts. The first time I saw the movie on YouTube, I only saw part 2 and 3, which tells you the real story about the Federal Reserve and that 9/11 was an inside job. I had a big interest in these 2 subjects, but I was very disappointed after finding out the truth about the agenda of Zeitgeist. By examining this video in detail, not only will we find out the true intentions of Zeitgeist, but also the true intentions of the New World Order, and find out who the real threat to our freedoms are. To find out the truth, we need to start at the beginning of Zeitgeist. In part 1, Peter is teaching how Christianity is being borrowed from another religion, and that Jesus represents a sun.
Probably the most obvious of all the astrological symbolism around Jesus regards the 12 disciples. They are simply the 12 constellations of the zodiac, which Jesus, being the sun, travels about with.
He also teaches that Jesus was the age of Pisces, and that Jesus will be pushed aside at the age of Aquarius.
In order to understand this, we need to be familiar with a phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes. The ancient Egyptians, along with cultures long before them, recognized that approximately every 2150 years the sunrise on the morning of the spring equinox would occur in a different sign of the zodiac. This has to do with a slow angular wobble that the Earth maintains as it rotates on its axis. It is called a precession because the constellations go backwards rather than through the normal yearly cycle. The amount of time it takes for the precession to go through all 12 signs is roughly 25,765 years. This is also called the Great Year, and ancient societies were very aware of this, and they referred to each 2150-year period as an age. From 4300 BC to 2150 BC, it was the age of Taurus, the bull. From 2150 BC to 1 AD, it was the age of Aries, the ram. And from 1 AD to 2150 AD, it is the age of Pisces, the age we are still in to this day. And in and around 2150, we will enter the new age, the age of Aquarius.
So where did he get this philosophy from? The answer is in the transcripts to the movie, which he posted on his website. Some of the names that Peter appealed to: Albert Churchward, who's a Freemason; a New Ager, Acheria S.; Maxwell Tice, who is also a New Ager, Gerald Macy, Edward Carpenter, Manly P. Hall, who was a Freemason, Higgins Godfrey, who was a Druid and associated with Helena Blavatsky, and Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. The names I have just mentioned are all a part of a huge network, a network that is linked like a spider's web. We may never find out everyone that's in this network, but we have enough information to find out who's at the center of the hierarchy. But I'm not going to tell you who he is. I'm going to let his puppets tell you. As I looked at these names, I realized that most of these people were Freemasons and New Agers. And as we go further in the documentary, you will begin to notice that these groups are against the Bible, except for one story in the Bible.
Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" "You will not surely die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened.
What do secret societies in the New Age teach? That it was Lucifer who illuminated or opened the eyes of Adam and Eve and made them wise and made them gods. One prominent person in the Zeitgeist list is Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Madame Blavatsky stands out as a fountainhead of modern occult thought and was the originator or the popularizer of many of the ideas and terms which have a century later been established within the New Age movement. The Theosophical Society, which she co-founded, has been the major advocate of occult philosophy in the West, and the single most important avenue of Eastern teachings to the West. In 1890, Madame Blavatsky handed over her teachings to another prominent New Ager by the name of Annie Besant. In 1902, Annie Besant established the International Order of Co-Freemasonry in England, and over the next few years established lodges in many parts of the British Empire. Both Annie Besant and Helena Blavatsky's theosophical writings were translated and published in Germany. An 1892 periodical, Lotus Blossom, featured Blavatsky's writings and was the first publication to sport the theosophical swastika on the cover. Another woman influenced by Madame Blavatsky was Alice A. Bailey, writer and lecturer of Neo-Theosophy. She was born in England in 1880 as Alice Petrov Bailey. She moved to America in 1907, where she spent the rest of her life. She was a high priestess and prophetess of the New Age movement. She was a prolific author on occultism and founded the International Esoteric Movement. Sir John Sinclair, a 32-degree Freemason, gives a commentary on the seminal influence on Alice A. Bailey, which he says underlines the conscious growth movement in the 20th century. Now, what do these women and a Chariot S, which was Peter's main source for the film, have in common? They all teach of a coming age, a new age.